All right, we're back. Another episode. B-side. That's STL.
The B-side.
Spelled like it sounds. Coming in with a little bit of pride today.
What do we got?
You know what we do? We keep it local, and it doesn't get any more local than this artist. Spelled as it sounds as well. It's Keller, Keller.
I'm a huge fan.
He so local, half of his DNA chain is mine. So playing the boys' music.
Is this the kiddo?
The kiddo.
Of course, this is your kiddo. I can't.
This is the one that.
What is with the family?
I love them all, but this one is really eating in at the purse strings a little bit down there in Nash Vegas.
What choice did you have to become a producer and to have a studio with all these family members who can play like this? Oh,
well,
my God.
This one, though, like, he came out of the womb just like, let's do it, rock and roll.
Touched by God.
2-3 years old singing, what's the song? Oh, what you do to me. Yeah, that was like his first sing-along.
At 3.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
At 4 or 5, because I play guitar, right, with me and Kim would sing daytime lullabies, and he would be like, you're out of key.
Yeah. During his lullaby.
Yeah, he's
I
like, wrong key, Dad. In a 4-year-old voice.
Even before he became a teenager. That's so awesome.
he was a teenager at 3.
That makes me happy. And what are we drinking, by the way? This is
well, you know what?
Oh my God. I can't consume a lot of beer, as we know.
Sure.
But and I don't drink the cool stuff. But
well,
this is one of the more delicious beers I've ever had. Look at Urban Chestnut.
Boy, man, we stumbled into that one. Hey,
John, finding
if
a beer
listening,
Anthony can drink is
sponsorships welcome.
Oh my God!
Subtle plug,
man. We are this episode's already like
because I'm a Busch guy. I'm a light. I mean, this is just so refreshing and awesome.
How about them apples, man? We are going straight up STL out of the gate. We are recording today at literally my favorite place in the world. Sorry, Kim. Kim's my wife, by the way. Amsterdam Tavern down on South Morganford. It is the mecca of soccer or football, however you want to pronounce it, in America when it comes to pubs.
In the international community and soccer community in St. Louis.
Yeah.
We got the old Cardinals. They get a lot of attention when you think St. Louis, but
jump over on
the soccer world.
If you happen to be just listening, jump over on YouTube and you'll be able to view it as well. We got some paraphernalia, soccer paraphernalia, not that other kind in the background here at Amsterdam. We came in with Keller, St. Louis native, he's a South Grand baby. He was born over on Utah.
Was he?
3800 block of Utah. So he's got that east-west
amazing
street in his blood. He's a State Street kid.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when I was born, I was literally born on the street called State Street in Granite City, east-west also. So
outstanding.
So we're doing that. We brought it in. You were just commenting on this fine bevy, cold and yellow. It does have German influences to it, and it has a little bit of AB blood in there. This is coming from Urban Chestnut, Zwickel Light. It is the official light beer float trips everywhere these days.
Yep.
I like it.
More than just Bud Light in St. Louis, guys.
Yes. And without further ado, let's bring our guest on. He's sitting here with us drinking a Zwickel Light as well.
I am.
We went to the bullpen, and this is no offense to this guy because we like this guy a lot already, but there's a long list of transplants here that we got to pick through.
Yep. Had
to call an audible, and he stepped up to plate. And I think it had something to do with the fact that we're doing it at Amsterdam at noon on a Friday.
It did. And it's not just we do love more than just guys with beards named Nate. I know we had an amazing one last week, but and we do have some incredible women lined up, but we couldn't make it today.
We're on a Nate run.
For the listeners out there, promise we've got some incredible folks coming through. But
go ahead and make it.
I wanted to bring Nate on today because Nate is one of those people that has lived around the world, could live around the world, and recently went through the process of deciding where to come in St. Louis. Married a St. Louis girl, but not exactly the reason he's here. He's also in my industry, in the recruiting industry. So I thought it'd be interesting to have that juxtaposition. And you are from Seattle. We've had a lot of Bostonians on the show, so I thought we could go a little west side. So yeah, you are from Seattle,
born and raised,
which is not something you hear every day.
No.
So yeah. Nathaniel Hudson, the Hudson Bridge.
Yep.
That's the mothership, so to speak.
That is the side hustle. I'm not sure the mothership, although it does pay me in lifestyle, has sanctioned for my lifestyle to be here on a Friday afternoon, getting loose. But yeah, the Hudson Bridge is my sort of side gig, and yeah.
So let's slingshot back to really kind of a little bit of the roots. You're a Seattle kid.
Yeah.
Are we talking Seattle proper, burbs? Were you up in the misty mountaintops?
Yeah.
You know, seeking out that shaman lifestyle that you referenced earlier?
Exactly, the YOLO shaman. My YOLO shaman roots are from Seattle, but not from where I was born. I guess my family is pretty out there, hence me being a rebel and moving to St. Louis. But I'm from Seattle proper, downtown, just downtown adjacent, I guess. When I lived there previously, moving to St. Louis too, I was 15 minutes from Pike Place Market, a stone's throw from when they shut down the city with the whole autonomous zone during COVID and the wake of George Floyd. So, but yeah, I'm Seattle through and through.
Got it.
And when you were looking at, I want to talk a little bit about some of the places you were before, but
yeah.
So you did have the option and thought about actually staying in Seattle, raising your family there, and then you were, I know, back and forth a little bit with your wife. Tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so I lived overseas. I was an expat, so I lived overseas for about a decade, and I repatriated, moved to New York City, where my wife, my St. Louisan wife, was living, and she had just wrapping up 10 years there, and she was done with New York. And I had just got there, and I could have stayed probably a little bit longer before I fully burnt out. But
let's help me map this out. Okay.
Sure.
So you're traveling around the world. You go to New York. Is this the first time you meet her, or had you known her previous?
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So born and raised in Seattle. It was a sleepy town. It's maybe similar population size to what St. Louis is now when I was growing up there. It has now seen an influx of Californians, so it's changed, radically different. But when I was there, it was too small for me, and I knew that while Seattle was idyllic.
Amazing. Wow. When Seattle was too small back then.
Post-grunge.
Yeah.
Yeah, post-grunge. It was like dot-com bust, right? So I graduated right around the 2003 is when I graduated high school, right? And so it was just too small as a bubble, and I liked it, but it was too small, and I needed to figure out something else. So I went to Arizona State. And in Seattle, culturally, I was a little misaligned too. So I'm more of a direct person. I don't like to really beat around the bush too much, and Seattle's very
Kumbaya.
I call it clutching your Patagonia.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. People are
wow.
just sanctimony city. And I just they say, you can't say that. I said, well, watch me. I'm going to say it. Just because you told me I couldn't do it, right?
A little oppositional defiance there, yeah.
Just a little bit. So in Seattle, I'm an asshole, right? And I moved to Arizona, and in Arizona, I'm a dirty, tree-hugging, commie liberal hippie, right?
Unbelievable.
Which was my first kind of opening of the aperture that, like, hey, this is a big country, and there's different ways of doing things, despite what everyone says, because they read the New York Times or the cool book in Seattle, right? So
imagine what it would have been if you would have went to SMU.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That one's for you, Dave.
Yeah. Little SMU Mustang love.
So I'm in Arizona State. I take the victory lap. It takes me a little while to graduate, and I also knew that Arizona was not tenable long term for me.
Well, let me pause you though.
Yeah.
Why? Because you knew your hometown wasn't kind of big enough, or it wasn't fitting kind of the mindset mantra. You go to Arizona to kind of, you hit the other end of that Newton's cradle that we were joking about earlier. What was it about that Southwest, more conservative landscape that wasn't resonating.
Yeah, and it wasn't even the culture as much as it was just the vibes of the city. So when I was in Arizona from like 2003 to 2008, it's the fastest growing city in the country, behind, or first or second behind Vegas, right?
I think Phoenix really is. Yeah, or last year.
Yeah, but for every 5 people that moved there, 3 people left. So there was just like net positive of 2, but a lot of churn. And you could feel that culturally, that there weren't really deep roots there. It's desert, it's strip mall. You have to drive everywhere. It's super sprawling. And I, even when we moved to St. Louis, I said, I can't live out in the burbs. I have to be able to walk someplace. So that 3800 block of Utah, very familiar to me, right?
Yeah,
walking to Grand, walking here, like I need to be able to do that. And that's not what Phoenix is about.
No, that's a car town.
Yeah. And it's also a place where it's great to go on vacation, but, to a lesser extent than Vegas, like you can't spend too much time there or I feel soulless, right? And not to say that it isn't cool culture there, or it's not Arizona's a beautiful state, but it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
To me. It's that dry heat.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot here. There's cities of wings and cities of roots and cities of soul and cities of new and kind of Legoland, and it's just a vibe that you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So graduated in 2008, not the best time to be looking for a job. My major was in education, right? So they were even closing schools down, but it was tough. And I have a cousin that teaches overseas. He's still overseas now, and he said, if you want a job, I could get you a job, but you have to move to Shanghai. I know some people there. There's like 30 international schools. Go. So I said, fuck it. I mean, what do I have to lose? I'm going to live with my parents longer? Like, it's a good motivator to get out of the house. So
did you immediately go to Duolingo and like, man, let's do this?
I had so much hubris, I didn't even go to Duolingo. I just bought the fucking ticket and said, I'm going to win, right? So I bought a ticket, 90-day return ticket. So if shit hits the fan in 3 months, if I can't make it work, I can always fly home. I ended up staying for 3 years and meeting my wife in China, right?
So let me, because a big crux of this show is kind of that initial reaction to a space, right? And obviously we build it around, and we'll get to kind of your opinions and reactions to St. Louis, but you kind of broke down your initial reaction to Phoenix. You kind of gutted it out because you were going to school there, you wrapped it up. You land in Shanghai, having the experience of one extreme cultural move to this one. What was, were you aware of how extreme it was? Did you feel that it was extreme? Was it a challenge? Was it exciting? Was it like, holy shit?
Yeah, I mean, so I traveled a fair amount as a kid and as a young adult. And so I should also preface saying, when I graduated from college, I spent 6 months traveling around the world. So like I had already been to maybe 30 countries before.
Little walkabout.
Wow. Don't know if I knew that.
Before going to China. So when I moved to Shanghai, it felt familiar. It felt like New York City, just with Chinese letters, right? Mm-hmm. And then, the first day when I tried to order some food and I speak zero Mandarin, it took me 15 minutes to gesticulate and say, give me a bowl of noodles.
Yeah.
I was like, what have I done, right? But superficially, it looked relatively familiar. There's just a bunch of Chinese people as opposed to a bunch of Americans walking around.
Yep.
The language barrier was challenging, but there's also 150,000 expats that live in Shanghai. So I was in the most competitive beer league softball league I've ever been in, with Australians and Canadians and Americans and Japanese fellas and Korean guys and Taiwanese people, right? So like there's an instant community there. It took me a while to find that community, but once I found it, China, and even the time I was in China, they were growing so quickly. It felt very similar to me to American culture. They care about their family, they care about consuming, and they care about stats, like social status. They want to get up. They want to make sure that their kids have a better chance than they did, right?
When you landed, did the reality of the communist state, from a generic descriptor, could you feel it? Could you see it? What was that like? Because I've never been.
Yeah.
Shanghai, I understand to be a true metropolitan city, macro metropolitan city. Was that evidence in your transactions with the community?
bits and pieces. It wasn't overbearing. It was very much a growth time, and I think it was the end of the Wild West era, right? And they had opened it. I describe it. It's like a kid that got the keys to the car and saying, "Hey, how fast we can go." And I touched maybe a sliver of Shanghai. There's so many currents going on there, but it is an international financial hub, and will be. So what didn't really feel heavy-handed, they're gosh, this is like 15 years ago now. So like they're definitely like the communist influence. I also moved to a tier 2 city in China called Hangzhou. The G8 summit was there the year after I left. They built, I guess the most obvious way that the Communist Party showed was like through development. So Hangzhou, in the 2 years I was there, built 6 subway lines, start to finish, in 2 years.
Oh my!
Full
God.
lines, like the red line in Chicago.
Yeah.
So
I would come home.
It's taken St. Louis 20 years to build one bike path.
So I would come home. It'd be a Tuesday night. I've got school the next morning at 7 o'clock. It'd be like 12:30 because I'm 24 and being silly. I'd be drunk, and there'd be a road crew breaking up a road. I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, it's late, 1, but 2, like the road's gonna be fucked for weeks. Kings Highway, how long did it take to get paved and painted and whatever? Yeah. Right?
Perpetual construction.
But I wake up in the morning to go to school. It is dug up, resurfaced, repainted, everything you can't tell the road crew was there, done. Right? And this is like the middle of a 24 million person city. So like, infrastructure happens pretty quickly. So that would be maybe
understatement of 2025. Yeah.
Like wow. I think Thomas Friedman had a book saying like we need to be China for a day, right, and then go back. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that like the U.S. is stuck, right, chasing its tail, and let's unstick ourselves and then commit to that and go forward. But that's a whole other diatribe.
Well, that's abundance.
Yes.
Have you read the book?
Bits and pieces.
Yeah. So so Shanghai. Opened your eyes. Go.
And then you start, and then you're teaching school, right?
Yeah. So I'm
teaching and coaching. You're both
teaching, coaching, athletic directing. I've taught everything from kindergarten PE to AP psychology. So I'm working at a school that's in English that has an American curriculum or an international baccalaureate curriculum. So these kids are children of expats, children of Chinese people that have come to the U.S. and come back and maybe want their kids to have a Western style education, so I've taught a lot of things.
Wow! All right, so you're there, and then and you said about 3 years, and then when you come back home. Or do you go anywhere else after China in the interim?
Yeah, so I was in China, and about 3 years I was in this softball league, and I see a bunch of guys that are 40 going on 60, or their livers are spotted, and they look. And it is never land, right? I had a lot of fun in college in Arizona State, but I could also see myself. I had more fun in China, and I could see myself just falling down the rabbit hole, right? And I said, I have to get. You
saw lifers, and you went, "Oh, I'm not."
I have to go.
If they can't be an inspiration, they were a warning.
Yeah, it was a loud warning. So the nature of international schools is every year there's like a shuffling of the faculty. So after my first year in China, I had friends in Malaysia, in Africa, in Guatemala, like all over the world. And so when I'm ready to go, I just send out some emails, send up the bat signal, and said, "Hey, I'm ready.
I want to move."
Yeah. And so I ended up in Ghana. Long story short, I ended up in Ghana in West Africa with a former colleague and lived there for 2 years. When I moved to Ghana, I said, "Okay, former English colony, this is going to be a breeze." Culturally, right? Like, if I could survive China and thrive in China, I'm gonna, Ghana's got nothing on me. And it was more challenging, my acclimatization to Ghana, than it was China, because on the surface, we might be speaking English, but we mean very different things. And then culturally, China was more closely aligned with the U.S. than I felt Ghana was.
Really, like. There had to have been a trigger or something that made you feel that initially. Was it just was it a vibe, or was it a how you paid your bills? What was it that like pointed that out to you?
So like formalities, right? there's some people have done some work on British colonies versus French colonies, and British colonies. And I'm not giving all the credit to the colonizers, right? I think it also reflects on the tribes that were there too that partnered with these European countries. But British colonization was much more just formal and kind of in between the lines. And these are the way we do things. And you have to play out the script, whether it's like what you actually mean or not. There's a lot more subtleties, but it's like good evening, sir. How are you?
Yeah,
well,
formalized.
Yeah, very much so. And French, it's very messy and cafe life. And just the formalities of Ghanaian culture, I couldn't get through. And that's more of like me and my assumptions going into it. I had a really good friend that has an American mom, Ghanaian dad, went to high school in Ghana, then he went to Yale, then he taught English in China for a year and then moved back to Ghana. So he was helping me triangulate these cultures, and it was just it was an interesting experience. I hated working there, but I went back and visited once, and I loved being welcomed back into the community when I was visiting, but working was just challenging.
Fascinating. And then so you said 2 years after Ghana, then where to?
Then I moved. I sent up the flare again, and I moved to Cairo, Egypt. So I moved there the year after their second revolution in 5 years, right after the Arab Spring. It was.
How long were you in Cairo?
I was in Cairo for 2 years. Learned how to scuba dive there. Amazing history. Like imagine the arches, the pyramids. I'd be drinking beer at happy hour, just
looking at the.
Let me ask
out.
you a quick question about the timing, because obviously, just given kind of your pathway, you're aware of global news, for lack of a better word. The Arab Spring was probably the biggest news event, of that 12, 18 months by far.
Yeah.
So you knew what was going on. You knew what had happened. Was the draw part of what does this tail wave look like? Because obviously you're still on the African continent.
Yeah.
Leaving Ghana. What was it about Cairo in particular? After that particular event that you were, because the globe's a big place, but you picked a place that it just came out of, incredible chaos.
I did, yeah. And I had some friends that left Ghana and went to bigger schools in Southeast Asia, but there are tiers to international schools. And the Cairo American College where I worked used to be top tier. Cairo was the biggest American embassy in the world, I believe, pre-Arab Spring, right?
Yeah.
So the school that I was working at pre-Arab Spring had 1,500 kids. It looked like a California high school in the middle of Cairo. Had a baseball team, a basketball team, soccer team, played in a sports league with other schools in Europe, right? So from Cairo, I went to Europe 6 times in 2 years on sports trips. And I also went to Jordan and Oman. So the prestige of the school is really high. So, admittedly, my appeal was less hey, let me see what it's like post-Arab Spring. It's, hey, here's a top-tier school that I can get on my resume, and there's an opportunity for me to go because they are reeling and trying to figure some stuff out. So it was more selfish than it was, I want to do an ethnographic expedition on what post-Arab Spring life is like in Cairo.
So then you wrap up and you land.
Yeah. So circling back a little bit, in China is where I met my future wife, right? We met working at the same school in China, and we had stayed friends and stayed in contact. And she was dating someone else. She broke up with her boyfriend. I was in Cairo, going to go to Croatia for summer vacation. She had just broken up with her boyfriend. I said, hey, you should bring some friends. I'm bringing some friends. Let's go. So we, it's
Croatia.
It's hard not to fall in love in the Adriatic sun and in the water and drinking way too much flosé, as they say. But
not unlike Italy.
Yeah, but I was not anticipating falling in love. Anyways,
you were attracted to the girl that was drinking Busch Light.
Yeah, no, she's
because what high school did she go to?
not a Busch Light high school. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, she went. My wife went to Villa, right? So, so she's slumming it up with me. But we ended up dating a year, long distance between Cairo and New York, and I was trying to convince her to come to Egypt because I was having such a good time, and she said not happening. So, moved to New York, and like I said, she was just wrapping up her tour there, or not tour, but like she was done, and so we came to this head in the road. It's like, well, we can either move to St. Louis or we can move to Seattle, and at that point, I had been to St. Louis once. I took the Greyhound here from Oklahoma City, I want to say.
Oh boy, that's a.
And I hung out with a buddy that I had made teaching in China, and we had a pretty good time. But like I wasn't planning on ever coming back, right? Yeah. And so I said, let's move to Seattle, and we went to Seattle in August, Labor Day weekend, right around now, where it's like there's a reason why people endure 9 months of shitty, overcast, like. Rain,
that's their middle summer. That's their 6 week or their short little summer at the end of the summer.
So the sun's setting at 10 o'clock. It's 75. It's not humid. There's no bugs.
Yeah.
It's heaven on earth.
So it's Seattle in the sunshine.
Yeah. And so my wife said, okay, we'll move here.
It's amazing.
So we moved there in 2017 and ended up staying there until, 2023. So 6 years. We gave it the old college try.
Wow, I don't know if I knew. So you were there a minute. You guys were there a minute.
There were a hot minute. So I changed careers from out of education into the corporate recruiting world.
And what did you do? Yeah, in Seattle when you kind of transitioned out of being a teacher. Where were you working? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I moved from education. I tried out a nonprofit in education. Seattle's expensive. It's really expensive. Mm-hmm. So much to my family's chagrin, I joined the dark side and I worked at Amazon and I worked at Facebook.
So they did. Those were two little startups that did okay.
Exactly. Yeah, they're doing all right.
Yeah.
Those checks didn't bounce.
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, I got there after. I think I joined Amazon when its stock was at an all-time high, so everything kind of went down from there. And I had friends that I went to high school with that were 3 or 4 levels above me, because they had been in Seattle the entire time. So the rocket ship of Seattle had launched and was in the stratosphere by the time I got there.
Yeah.
Right. And so
and the tech bros and Amazon had already started to change the culture a lot of Seattle, from the garage band grunge to the hub, between Microsoft and Amazon, what it is today.
Yeah. And Seattle, the grungy Seattle part is interesting because so Seattle and Portland are rivals. They're the Chicago St. Louis rivalry, right? Yep. And I always describe it as Portland is the younger sibling that said, "Fuck work, I'm going to work at a cafe or do whatever. I am punk rock, right?" And Seattle has been the older sibling that's like, okay, well, I got to get a big boy job and put on my suit and tie, or
interesting.
Put on my Patagonia and tuck in my shirt, right, and be presentable to the corporate world.
Yeah, because when you zoom out, Seattle, coming from the world of finance in a previous life, Seattle was really had its crosshairs set on more Silicon Valley and San Francisco in particular than it did Portland.
Yeah,
but within the region. That's the.
What does everyone in Portland do? Does they work for Nike, or are they all? I mean, how does an entire city economy survive on artisan milk?
They're all creatives.
They're all. I know, but who pay?
Good question.
I mean, the food, it's unbelievable. But what is it? What do they? Not to sound like the Bobs. What do they do there?
Yeah, I mean, there is industry there besides Nike. I mean, Adidas has a hub. There is There's a large actual creative sort of cottage industry that's popped up around that to support them with consulting and stuff.
Kind of agencies. Kind of like St. Louis and Anheuser-Busch.
Well, it's very much like Omaha.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you do have a Nike, right, in Portland or in that region, it's no different than Berkshire
Hathaway
being in Omaha, and you have the satellite services.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And Intel's there. I mean, then all these PwC, other financial firms.
So it has a corporate side.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say,
Seattle,
painting with broad strokes. Yeah. Right. I always look down on Portland as those riffraff.
Well, and it also, it's a landscape compare contrast too, because Seattle being on the water, right?
Yeah.
You're on your ocean front, whereas Portland, that's set in. Yeah, it's beautiful. and it has the river and everything else, but you're not on the ocean.
No.
So it's like those people that move to Florida and they're like 100 miles away from the coast. Why bother?
Yeah.
You go there for the water.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of that going on
For
too.
sure.
So you're back in Seattle. You're working in at these little startups that did okay. And then did you think maybe you could be a lifer there, and then tell me a little bit about the industry, how you kind of landed where you landed too.
Yeah, I mean, my time at Amazon and Facebook, and I still do some, I support corporate HR roles and corporate consulting right now and research.
Yeah.
So my life is still very much like that. But specifically with Amazon and Facebook, moving back to the States, it became abundantly clear to me that like education is not the valued metric in America, right?
That it was abroad.
Well, yeah, there
or just in general.
It was more respected abroad,
Yeah.
right? And I was paid well as a mercenary to come abroad to be an educator, right?
Sure.
In the U.S., you could work at Burroughs or any prestigious schools. There's a cap on how much you're going to make, and what is valued is money and business. And I knew that I needed to learn that quick, right?
What a
Well,
perspective.
I've heard this before though. When it comes to American universities abroad, they're highly valued because a lot of the locals and expats in particular are those that want to get on the inside loop. They know that the financial prowess that is America, is so much better than the vast majority of areas in which they all live in or these schools are at. Those schools and institutions are a gateway. Like, I want a piece of that American capitalism, and therefore those teachers are treated really, really well abroad. And the irony is, we don't treat them anywhere near as well domestically.
So,
and they're the ones actually pumping out the people that are creating industry.
So when I was in Cairo, I had a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom flat to myself. I had a maid come twice a week. I had a 7-minute commute to work walking, right? I wasn't paid that much, but I didn't pay any income tax.
The perks.
Right. I got airfare to travel home or, wherever the equivalent to go travel to Croatia every summer. And I saved a lot of money as a teacher. Right. And I also lived pretty large too. Right. Moving back to the States, that was not the case.
Did you have a camel?
I did not.
Damn.
So Marshawn Lynch, though, there's a picture of him on a camel. So he came and visited our school and did some football drills there. So there you go.
So let's transplant you then.
Yeah.
You get into the HR world. You and your wife at the time. When did you get married? What year?
So we got married in 2017. So yeah. So we've been in Seattle a while, thinking about kids. Have a kid in Seattle in September 2020. So the pandemic hits. We're in an apartment. We're renting, and my wife's like, "Okay, I need space, right? I need a nest. I need these things."
Some elbow room.
Looking in Seattle, you're looking at 1,000 square foot fixer-upper bungalow for $1 million is like the entry point,
right.
And that was not tenable. My wife still is in education. Even though I'm working for Amazon, I'm not like making multiples at Amazon. Like, I'm living comfortably, but I'm not retiring anytime soon. And it wasn't happening. Plus, we had been to St. Louis, I want to say 6 or 7 times with my daughters before we moved here. And so I said, if I'm gonna spend all my vacation moving to St. Louis or traveling to St. Louis, why not just live here? And then I can go on vacation to other places, right?
And was this your idea or hers?
It was mutual.
It was mutual.
Right? Yeah,
okay.
And her parents are in their 80s too. And I told her, I said,
time to get home
and I said, look, I've survived a lot of places. I will commit to St. Louis. I won't say anything about moving for 5 years. All good, right? And I said, I have no idea what I'm jumping into, but I'll jump, right? And that was like 2.5 years ago now.
Wow.
So I mean, when I want to dig into this decision process a little bit more, and I know that the large driver inevitably had to be this is her roots, her family. That's your wife now. You have a child together. So it's kind of easy, right?
Yeah.
But for you personally, Seattle to Arizona to New York to all, Shanghai, all over the world, the African continent twice.
Yeah.
Ghana, Cairo.
As you're laying in bed during those years, do you remember kind of like what was going through your head as far as like your impression? Because I can imagine when you're leaving the States the first time to go to Shanghai, you probably had, I'm going to China. I know I'm going to eat a lot of noodles or whatever, certain preconceived notions as to what you might expect that's going to be different. St. Louis is a Midwest Rust Belt town, right? And you've been all over the world. When you were saying to yourself, I'm going to St. Louis, do you remember maybe what you were, because you had visited, but it's a lot different to live here.
Yeah, and to be fair, my wife's friends that are still here, put on a little recruiting pitch for me too. So one of her friends, her husband gathered some guys in his neighborhood. We went to the VFW on Big Ben and drank cheap beer, and they're like, hey, it's a great place, and you could 20 minutes from everything, all this typical stuff. Like the zoo is free, and it's a great place to raise kids, and blah 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 blah. And at first I was still pretty apprehensive. So I don't want to say that it was the easiest sell in the world. It took me a while to say, okay, I'm going to commit to this. Mm-hmm. Mostly because I was afraid to lose access to that global part of me that's really important. And even in Seattle's pretty provincial too, moving back, right? And there are bits and pieces of it, but all my friends in high school, it reminds me a lot of St. Louis. They consolidated to one social circle, right? And they're not doing new things, and I'm a butterfly.
And is that akin to? So they call it the Seattle Freeze, which is akin to their version of the high school question. Is that real? Is that
yeah?
That
so
reputation
like,
a thing?
And it's like fake nice. It's faux nice, right? So it'd say, hey,
so it's similar to Midwest.
Anthony. It was great hanging out with you. We should grab lunch sometime.
Yeah.
And you would say, yeah, let's do it. You're like, cool. And then you leave.
There's no follow-up.
No.
That's similar.
And then you walk out the door, and he's like,
Yeah.
he wears Eddie Bauer.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah. See you never. Right? Exactly. Right?
Do love that Eddie Bauer. Oh, man.
Yeah, and
I'm more of an Orvis guy
It's
now.
it's Midwest Patagonia.
It's also been interesting. I think Seattle used to be the end of the road, right? So people would go there and not want to talk to anyone.
Well, there's also no more frontier.
Yeah.
Like in your brain, that is the end of the road.
Yeah.
Kind of from, you've got tech and you have the coast.
Yep.
Right? I don't need to go any further.
Yeah.
Right? There's a little bit of like weird brain play there.
Yeah. And people like to play outside a lot more too. So like if it's raining in the city, it's snowing in the mountains. So people are going to snow, and that's an activity that it's harder to make friends than if you're going to a live show or you're, communing with people, right? Yeah. And there's people that have broken through that, but it's a lot more. My wife had the hardest time in Seattle making friends.
Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break here at the Amsterdam Tavern on South Morganford. I highly encourage, if you have not, do. It's a must-see. Whether you like soccer or not, doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, this is
somewhere where they do not talk about high school.
This is like Epcot Center without Center without kids.
People from all over the world. Yep.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to roll out. When we come back, we're going to talk about the you transplant, her replanting, and get into some of the, the aha moments or the gotchas or the surprise little, nugget in the middle of that candy bar there. Anthony.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
And Nathaniel on the mics as well. JB here. We're going to take a quick break. Rolling out. Keller. Go check him out on Spotify as well. The more spins he gets, the less he's on my time. So thank you. We'll be right back after this. Okay. Coming back in here, a little down here at the Amsterdam Tavern, as we mentioned. Gonna roll you in, not roll you out. A little more St. Louis tunes here. Feels like a Friday tune, doesn't it?
It does.
This is I have this discussion / debate often with people about St. Louis when it comes to, what is St. Louis, and then inevitably when it comes to like the music side. there's all these debates about, well, we're a ragtime town, we're a jazz blues town, and
Americana.
And I've always made the argument that we're an Americana country town. You can't be in the middle of America, where at any given point in this town, 20 miles in any direction is a farm field, and not own up to the reality that you're in the country.
Yeah.
So
tell me a little bit about what is Americana exactly.
I think Americana is literally just Midwest country. Just
Midwest country.
Dumb it down simply. I think because of up here in the neutral world of the historic Civil War battle, right? We have a much larger concentration of industry, right? There's, St. Louis was a metropolitan town. Chicago obviously was, but there's a lot of farm around here, right? There's a lot of country, and it's just
75% of the world's food all within 200 miles of St. Louis.
Yeah, and I think it's like, and I hate this term. We use it too much, but grit, right? But I think there's a certain amount of reality to it because, I go back to like my childhood. The band that influenced me the most within quote Americana was Uncle Tupelo. Which turned into Wilco and Sunvolt. And, when you listen to those songs, it's whiskey, it's late nights, but it's train tracks and it's the factory.
A little depressing in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, way different because the depressing classic country was more on the plains and horses and
singing about depressing stuff, but Sunvolt was
Jay.
It was chill.
Yeah. If you were ever having a really bad day,
I would throw that on. As an existentially tortured teenager, Sunvolt was the jam.
It can always get worse.
Yeah. You think that's bad?
So anyway, I'm playing, rolling in here. This dude, I love this guy. His name's Hunter Peebles, Peebles. Go check it out on Spotify. We actually recorded this EP over at Gaslight. It's called Drifter. The dude, big voice, but he's country, more country, but it's Americana.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's grinding it here in the loo. So anyway, there's always a music component here. We are back. We are, like I said, down here at Amsterdam Tavern chatting. We've got Nathaniel Hudson. Really simple map to follow, born in Seattle and then the rest of the world.
Yeah. Cairo, Ghana, Shanghai.
And then he met that villa girl.
New York, Croatia, then we got the villa.
The villa.
They always win that fight.
Procreated, and now you're here.
But I feel like it was as much you, if not maybe even more. I mean, you're similar to some other people who've been on the show as the non-native. You're as interested in the culture and world of St. Louis, maybe even more so than the one who's from here.
Yeah, look, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I live here, so we're going to do it to 11.
And you really have.
And to be fair, when I moved back to Seattle, I had certain expectations of what Seattle was based on my lived experience there, based on growing up there.
Yeah.
It had changed a lot.
Yeah.
My wife's experience of growing up here is not necessarily the experience that she is looking to exactly replicate, right? Going out to the county, going out to the burbs, doing all those things. Now, there are components of that we certainly do.
Has she seen some changes in St. Louis, or is it not? It's not had a Seattle level pop or change.
No.
Maybe on the precipice.
So what I say is like Seattle was built for half as many people that live there, and St. Louis was built for twice as many people. That live
exactly.
There. So I think there's more ebbs and flows in St. Louis, and I'm hoping we're on the upswing of something. But she didn't live in the city she's not a city girl, right? She's from the county.
She's a county.
person. And so there's new
but
stuff.
So
all
you're
the time.
so you're really experiencing both sides of St. Louis. I think when you guys moved, you really gave some real thought into some of all the different neighborhoods. So did you guys even consider the county? I know you ended up in Tower Grove, right?
Yeah,
we're in Tower Grove
South, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so that kind of had a little bit of the St. Louis, a little bit more, some of the Seattle grit, JB's favorite word, speak of the devil. But talk to me a little bit about that. What neighborhoods were you looking at? What were you seeing? And then what kind of what had the vibe that ended up being the right fit for both of you guys?
Sure. Yeah. We looked. My in-laws live in Ladue.
Sure, yeah.
That's not necessarily
Heard of it.
my vibe or necessarily my price range too, right?
Yeah, right.
We looked at Kirkwood. We looked at Maplewood. We looked at U City. We looked at Central West End.
Wow.
So we looked a lot of places. We actually put an offer in on a townhome in the Central West End that
right.
we lost out on.
So you would have done the Central West End.
Yeah,
Could've.
for sure. I'm
Yeah.
glad we're not there, just because I think the neighborhood we live in, Tower Grove South, reminds me a lot of the neighborhood I grew up in. Right? It's suburban, but not suburban. It's 2 blocks away from a coffee shop, R.I.P. Gelateria, but a bunch of restaurants. Actually, when we first moved here, we didn't buy. We lived across the street from the Amsterdam Tavern. We lived in good old Mofo, which is cute for a 2-year-old to say, I live in Mofo. And then I would.
It doesn't get more St. Louis than that.
Yeah, and I would come to Amsterdam and write emails, right? And work. This was my office. So we looked places, but living so close to Tower Grove Park, I go on a walk there pretty much every day. I love the neighborhood we're in.
So let me ask you, in your search, you're going around to these other neighborhoods. And, in St. Louis, I know all the neighborhoods. Anthony, both of us do. And as much as they're all kind of quote St. Louis, there's definitive like vibe differences and even just optics, infrastructure, etc. Can you talk a little bit about Tower Grove South in particular, and this really South Grand area? Just your impression of it, because you landed here, you're still here, you appear to like it.
For sure.
Can you kind of describe it? Because we do have some listeners that are not from here, and they all think St. Louis is just kind of, it's either a war zone, based on a headline, or it's in the sticks, and that's just not the reality.
Yeah. So I'll say it's surprisingly dense, right? You're not going to see anything high rise. You'll see some mid rise, but like on the block that I live on, it's single family and duplex, so that we pack them in there, right? But it doesn't feel crowded. It's very neighborhoody. People are super friendly, neighborly, dare I say. For Halloween, my folks were in town, and we also invited this French family that work at Nestle that my daughter went to daycare with, and we invited them, and they had their one of their siblings, right? So like French couple, the brother of the wife, and his 3 kids were there, right? And they all speak French, and not a lot of English. It was Halloween. We invited them to go trick-or-treating. They came to our neighborhood. We gave out, I think, 1,000 pieces of candy, but we took these French girls, 9 to 3, on this Halloween expedition. And the parents, this was right before the election, and the parents said, this has restored our faith in America and what the goodness of what America can be.
Wait. Which election? Because that's a loaded question.
This is before the 2024 election.
Okay.
Right. So like it's fraught.
I was gonna say that was the big one.
Yeah, it still is fraught, right? But these are French folks that have this idea of not just St. Louis, but of America being whatever America is, right? And coming to this neighborhood and saying, "Whoa, this does remind me of a John Hughes movie in the '80s." Like that dream has not fully vanished.
Did they ask which house Josh, our senator, lives in?
Josh Hawley?
No. No, he's not here.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of the the fun culture side of things now. We've got you here. The girl got you here. The girl got you here.
Yeah.
Now you've been embedded for a little bit. What stands out to you? Like now, whenever somebody says or talks to you, a buddy from afar, hey man, what's going on there? What's it really like, or what do you like? Where do you start when you start to describe kind of your new home, through the lens of your life today in 2025?
Yeah. So first, I try not. Seeing what happened in Seattle makes me not want to talk it up too much, right? Because I don't want to. I mean, it's this delicate middle zone of you want some more people, or there's room for some more vibrancy here, but you don't want it to be overcrowded
we talk about that a lot at Acclimate. There are people in St. Louis who do not like what we do, and they do not want people to know.
Yeah, and I'm
St. Louis.
I'm not that far on the spectrum, but I will say I like it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
Right, and there's access to everything. There's elbow room. There's space, like physical space, but also mental and temporal space to be able to investigate. We were talking before the podcast, if you're curious about something, there's time for you to be able to explore that, adopt a side hustle, build a side hustle, not because you just have to survive, to pay rent. We were paying like $27.50 for daycare a month in Seattle, right?
And it doesn't take you an hour and a half to go through a stoplight.
100%.
I've heard in Seattle.
It's
so
rush hour here lasts 30 minutes, and it might add 5 minutes to your commute. It's not that bad, right? So yeah, there's a lot more. It's accessible, and it feels very primed to do some stuff, right?
So let me ask you specifically about the economic reality of St. Louis, comparing and contrasting to your own experiences. Now, I know that it's a little different. When you're not married and you don't have a kid and you're in Shanghai making money, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Same in Cairo. But, New York and your home in Seattle, the expenses you were talking about, 6 years of living in Seattle with a child, with a, quote, day job.
Yeah.
And then coming here, can you talk about maybe the mental reality or the expenses? I hate to use the word cheap. I'm not going to say cheap. I refuse to say cheap, even though I said it 3 times in a row.
And it's not cheap. Anthony has a whole shtick about this, but St. Louis is considered a discount market, and yes, my house was orders of magnitude cheaper here than it was in Seattle, but like. Groceries life is not cheap right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't call it cheap. The zoo's free, but parking isn't. you know, like you still have to pay for
refreshments
whatever.
Or not.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So life still costs money. I think it's nice to know that I can afford my own home here. Right.
Single family home is a piece of this. I wouldn't say people promote the affordability. I like to say affordable isn't a reason to move anywhere. However, when you do look at the single-family home market and the kind of neighborhoods and life with a 4-year-old in comparison, and even just logistically, I think what you're right. You're dead on about it, obviously.
Yeah, and cool. I can go to the zoo or I can go to the science center, but I'm not doing that every single day.
Yeah.
What about some of the things though that are not free? Because that's the one thing too. I think that our city over relies upon, from a messaging standpoint. Oh, our park is bigger than Central Park, and the zoo is free. Take your pick. What are some of the things, though, that you've engaged in that, you found them, discovered, stumbled upon, or were pointed towards? Because you obviously have a little bit of a cheat sheet. Your wife's from here, but through your eyes.
So let's take Music at the Intersection, right? The festival there.
Maddie,
yes, coming up. So we went last year, really liked it, and it's still pretty. It's not as overly produced, right? There was a relative similar event in Seattle called Bumbershoot that is now like Coachella Light, right? And it's like $300 a day. Maddie, I think, is $60 a day, and you get to see some world-class artists and great music, right?
Did you see De La Souls this year, by the way?
I do. They're on at the same time as a Seattle band called the Delvon Lamar Organ Trio. So
there you go.
So I got to figure out who I'm going to go see. I know I'm going to go see the Playa Doors on Friday night.
David
Grelly, whose mom taught my wife math, middle school math. So,
Unbelievable.
St. Louisans, baby.
That's a St. Louis connection.
Perfect.
And Dave is great. And that's like, those are people that in Seattle, because there's more people, those connections happen less and less and less.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm in my middle age. I'm recognizing I'm more of a townie than I thought I was going to be. Right. But you can't pay for that access. I don't want to pay for that access. And it becomes a commodity in Seattle or Shanghai or New York saying, hey, I've got money, and the highest bidder wins. And there's things like that in St. Louis that you Dave and I could go to a show and he could see Marquise Knox or whomever, and it just is organic, as opposed to say, I paid for the VIP experience to go see these, whatever, right? And so that, to me, you can't replicate.
Look, this is such a small world, because literally, I'm going to tie this back to our previous episode with Nate Burrell, or Nate. Nate 1.0.
A lot of Nates and Beards around here. We like the Nates.
One of my most favorite experiences with Nate, and we weren't working directly, he was just simply in my building, was in 2017, I believe was the year. It was the last year of Lou Fest before you landed here, and there was the Chuck Berry experience was the headlining feature of the whole festival, in which you had Spoon and Cage the Elephant and Valerie June and Captain Kirk and everybody. They were there to do this whole set of Chuck songs. Well, Dave Groehley was part of the rhythm section, the ringers, and those photos that I have. And if you go back to the episode, you can see these. Nate Burrell shot those photos featuring Dave Groehley and the crew, and it's one of those things. To your point, and the only reason I bring this up, one, to promote the previous episode, but two, you're spot on. This is one of those towns where, because it's shrunk to a point where it's not big, when you do venture out just a little bit, you don't have to go far. You can meet extremely creative individuals, extremely inspiring individuals that can help you navigate quickly, effectively, and get to just top class art or music or food or whatever. And I can tell just by your body language and the way you were talking about Dave and Maddie and everything, you kind of probably already feel like, hey, I'm a local. Because you know this shit, and you've only been here two years?
2 years.
Yeah. And I can talk to anyone, right? I could.
It is a gift.
So, but I've made friends with locals. I've made friends with expats. I've made friends with lots of people, right? And part of me is, what was it, culture? There's like the peach where it's like soft on the outside and hard to get into the middle, right? And then there's the coconut. It's hard on the outside and easy to get in the middle, right? And I'm kind of whatever the mashup of a coconut and a peach are. Like I get around a lot, but I can also go deep pretty quickly too. And I feel like I can break down some of these barriers with some St. Louisans that maybe not everyone can do. But folks are receptive and open to new things and new ideas. And
once you get through the wall,
exactly, you're
in the club, and there's as far as access, connection, there's nothing like it. You do have to get through that wall.
Yeah.
But once you're in, unlike Seattle or maybe a larger market, maybe Seattle's a bad example, where it's easier to get through, but then you really can't connect the same way. But whereas here, once you're in. You just kind of got to get through that initial phase.
Yeah, and so I'm going to bring this back to light beer too. I have a friend that only drinks macro brews, right? And especially, and this was in Seattle, so that was like a rebellious thing to do. And I said, well, what are you doing? He goes, well, when I see 8 IPAs on draft, that's not diversity to me. That's just IPAs.
It's just different levels of weed water.
Exactly, right? But
weed water.
So it's important. It's important to have that macro perspective, right? And that the full list of taps. And I think in St. Louis, what you see is it's so eclectic, right? It's and I forgot where I'm going. Maybe that was the second beer and no lunch.
Yeah,
and the whiskey shot. I had a point to make. I got distracted. There's people walking.
Accessibility in terms of breaking through kind of the initial barriers. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about then, because obviously through your travels you've experienced food and music and all these things that actually make a culture relevant. We've been talking about the music scene here that you've already kind of embedded in, that you're interested in. Outside of that, maybe the food side, or maybe, you know what? Scratch that. Here's what I want to talk about. You have little ones.
Yeah.
1 or 2?
Just one daughter.
Just one daughter. Okay.
Yeah. Well, not just one. I have one daughter.
There.
Eliminate just. Yeah.
Within due time, she will be of school age and moving up, and you have your family, and as a parent, that is ultimately whatever we were interested in. kind of changes
Yeah.
once they start to become, integrated into schools, etc. When you think about St. Louis through the lens of being a dad, how would you describe it at this point?
There's a poo-poo platter out there that anything my daughter is interested in, I can give her a taste of, right, if she wants that. There's certainly aspects of St. Louis that I want to make sure she knows there's a world outside of St. Louis, because we've all met people that know, like, very St. Louis centric. This is it.
Brentwood, Mizzou, back to to Brentwood.
But
I'm going to live in Brentwood Forest and go to J school.
Yep.
Everyone that I've met that's of St. Louis that I've met not in St. Louis. So my buddy that I met teaching in China, my friends from St. Louis and Seattle, right? They've been solid, gregarious, affable people. And so I know that whatever this culture is, my daughter's going to be raised in that. She's going to know how to talk to people from all sorts of different backgrounds.
Rural, suburban,
both
cosmopolitan,
both sides of the political
north, south,
spectrum.
east,
Exactly,
west.
right?
Yeah.
And so, like,
very cool thing.
So it is a microcosm here. It's not the same as going to school in Egypt.
Yeah.
But there is this like confluence of a lot here that she will be well rounded, and there's access. It might not. There are world class things here, and there are some things that are not world class, but they're still pretty damn good and serviceable until you go to Paris or wherever the world class component of that.
So in a way, coming up in a place like St. Louis, she'll have the familiarity to get along with a lot of different circles and cultures just by being in the middle, which is not something I think a lot of people think about.
100%.
You talk about New York. We get that all the time. Moving people here from around the world, and they'll say to us, I really only understand New York. I really only understand California.
Yeah.
And they'll say, but you really have to understand Chicago. You have to understand Illinois. You've got to understand Tennessee. You've got to understand California. You've got to understand Texas. You've got to understand Pennsylvania, just by the nature of the location, which is something that I think Midwest gets a reputation for being so provincial. Yeah. But actually, in many ways, it's on the front line.
Well, I think I saw it on Reddit. Shit, I don't know. I should have screenshot it. I just looked at it, and at the time, I'm like, oh, that's a really unique way of looking at it. Here's the premise along the lines of what you're talking about, and I want to get your take on this, Nathaniel. It was basically somebody from St. Louis. They were like, hey, think about St. Louis, because if I'm in New York, I can't go right. If I'm in L.A., I can't go left. If I'm in Chicago, I can't go north, right? If I'm in St. Louis, I can go anywhere.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And it was a really unique kind of dumbed down way to, like, paint the picture. And as you start to peel back the onion on, okay, what does that really mean? Well, if we want to try to apply a more, heady analogy to it, there's a lot of truth to that. And it sounds as if the way you're describing it, you're at the tip of the arrow, and you're figuring out that, given your own lived experiences and travels and jobs and friends and peers, that what is happening here in your life in the middle of the country, any of your interests can be, you can throw as much fuel on that fire as you want.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, you can whet whatever appetite you want, and it's not, there's, there might be, like, certainly New York or Seattle they're more international cities and have a lot of things going on there too, but you're also elbowing out people that are trying to, like, climb up the rat race to push you out. So there's space for you to say, okay, I want to try pottery. I can't think of a tangible example.
That's a perfect example, actually.
But you can go to the
it's an incredible place right over on Cherokee Street.
Yeah, so you
I
go
know
to the
people who do it.
You go to the pottery place, and there's room. You don't have to book it 2 months ahead. You can just say on a whim, hey, let's go try that, and do it.
Yeah, and it's not as overtly international. It's not like landing at O'Hare or in D.C., but you can come to the Amsterdam Tavern. And there are pockets here where you get that exposure. So somebody who's been in China and Ghana and Cairo and New York and Seattle, you're going to need that flavor. And if you know where to look, that is possible here.
So let me take a second. Let me lay over the top of this just a question, and this pertains to kind of the political optics nationally.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you can't get away from politics in 2025 America, period. And I don't want to have a political discussion, but what I want to do is just get your take on the optics of St. Louis and Missouri in particular, because when you zoom out and you look at headlines, we are a red state, blue state, to the point where we're really kind of, either blue cities or red states, right? And Missouri is kind of known for Hawley, for Schmidt, for chaos, more on the far right spectrum. And then there's St. Louis. You through your travels and kind of looking at that, because I asked you earlier about living in a communist country. Did it feel that way?
Yeah.
I want to basically frame the same question as far as St. Louis when it comes to the political optics for people that are elsewhere and all they think about.
What do your friends say? What do your parents say?
Yeah,
for sure.
How
your former coworkers say when you were moving to St. Louis?
Do you jog with Josh?
No, I don't.
One of those things.
Yeah, exactly. We're the blueberry in a can of tomato soup, right? So my wife and I went to Mardi Gras and Soulard, and we went down there, and it was anything from being monochromatic, right? And
just a little bit, right?
Right, but so you're forced to interact with folks, and you don't know what side of the political spectrum they're on, right? And Soulard is different than going to Ladue, right? But even in Ladue, you don't know what side of the political spectrum people are on either. And I'm
very different than the coast.
Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of getting shit done and recognizing that there's some truce on both sides and that creative tension. And I think it doesn't feel as tense here as it does in Seattle, where if you deviate from the script, you're like persona non grata, right? Yeah. And here, there's less there's less shoulding here. Right, it's like
you'll be at a dinner party and you have no idea how anybody voted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the same in Seattle.
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean because I'm hearing this and it's like, Anthony, we've talked about this before with other guests and on the mic and off the mic. There's a reality within the recruiting world, as you both well know, that when you are looking to pull in talent or transplants that are coming from
anywhere,
elevated, educated,
it comes up.
So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I'll say, I wasn't here for Mike Brown, right? And what that was like. I was living overseas, so I didn't even I didn't have a finger on the pulse of how America was reacting to that. I do know that the women's rights issues have been they're subversive, they're felt. Right, they're not talked about every day. It's kind of the same way in China. I didn't feel like I was in a communist regime, but there's underlying tones. Like there's a saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered. So don't stick out too much. Same thing here. It impacts the way that people make decisions when there's less options for family planning. So that is it's subtly bubbling underneath. I think also with just the racial. Relations here, I'm not local enough to fully immerse in that. If I was, I would have more bridges and ties across there too. And so I can't speak fully to that, but it seems like that divide
very overt.
Is pretty pronounced.
Yep.
But also there's people that live here or people that come visit that will never confront that, right?
Yep.
Or never see that unless you drive to that part of town or go actively look for it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's like anywhere. It's not over the head. I don't feel like I live in a big red state. I mean, you could go 15 minutes south of Seattle and see big MAGA flags and Trump flags driving on pickup trucks. So it's not like it's just St. Louis. I mean, that happens in Washington State.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the nature of our country. Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I really see how this is an area. Of course, it matters, and people will say, if they're coming from a Muslim background or they're coming from a certain religious background,
right.
LGBTQ plus, the world believes, as far as pervading metrics and things, that there is New York City and there are cows, and there is nothing in between. And there's this whole other world of these middle market cities.
I prefer
that
liberal
exist.
cows.
Right. Right. And so
is that an option?
We're just trying to get them to understand that they're here, but also back to your point, if you want to make red states blue, if you want to participate and come to where you're needed, I think that so a lot of people will say, when you look at somebody, if you're coming from if there's a big move or a big corporate move or transfer from something like Washington State, they'll say, where are you on this environmental initiative? Where are you on this initiative or that? And here, I will say generally to those people, come be part of that change.
Yeah.
Come to where you're needed.
Well,
come to where you're going to make the impact. And instead of framing, you don't have to frame Missouri as this bastion of progressive ideas in order to attract people of a liberal or progressive mindset, or vice versa. Whatever your political whatever your initiative is, here I just want to get the message out that you're still in the game.
Yeah.
And that somebody like, a Nathaniel who's lived around the world, who works in this, HR, recruiting, cultural translation, all of those factors, this is still a place where you can participate and be that difference. And I just don't even know, again, when people think St. Louis and people think Missouri, I don't know that they even think that there's an international soccer bar right in the middle of all of it where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
So the pitch, your day job, you're in recruiting. Are you working primarily with St. Louis recruiting, or is it national recruiting? Because I'm curious what the potential sale or pitch is, because like in Anthony's world, he's selling St. Louis.
Yeah.
When you do have a recruit coming into this market, what's your talking points at this stage of the game?
Sure. And to be completely transparent, I'm not just doing recruiting. I'm more
HR consulting.
HR consulting, right? But if I'm pitching someone, it's similar to what Anthony said. It's like, first off, St. Louis is going to appeal to everyone. New York City doesn't appeal to everyone. I think that's okay. So it's helping the person understand what they want from where they live beyond just work, right? And so if you want access to get involved, if you want to not be in a rat race, if you want, if you want all the diversity and variety of a big city without the headache of living in a big city and without having to, drive an hour every day
Every
to
time
commute,
you get in the car.
Yeah, come to St. Louis. And if you also have creative outlets that you want to explore, no matter where you are, you can find currents where you could, be in grind culture and this, that, the other, but there is space for you to grow, to experiment, to try things that you cannot do in more crowded places.
Yeah. No, I mean, the commute, the travel, etc. I was joking with my wife the other day. We were talking about exactly this, and she's like, it's, everybody complains because she's still used to, even though it was 20 years ago, Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Where we would go 9 miles and it took you an hour and 20.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, St. Louis, where 1 hour equals 54 miles.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it that
Literally.
way, but that's that's what you get. You actually get space and span. Let's talk about some of the fun stuff then.
Yeah.
We talked about music a little bit earlier. Some of the eats, some of the do's. What's your non-work day? What are you filling it with when you go get some food, or when you're wanting to take the three of you and head out?
I don't know. That's such a good question, because I like to just go where the wind blows me a lot of the times. I've been very surprised at how active the Reddit community is on St. Louis. So I will, if I'm hankering for barbecue or Western Chinese food or Somali food or whatever, just Googling that and Reddit, and then going on.
You don't go back to same old. You keep going, and in St. Louis you have a lot of options. I mean, you can really the list keeps growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put some guardrails on.
Sure.
Yeah.
You wake up, you need your coffee and bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
What's your breakfast go to?
I don't eat breakfast, so I'm trying to figure it out. But
I don't know
All
if
right,
we can be
JB's
friends.
JB's a breakfast
No, so
guy.
here you go.
I'm
So
like,
here you go. So I really like Road Crew across the street from us, just because convenience.
Hartford.
Yeah, I don't go to Hartford as much. I don't prefer their coffee as much.
Well, fair enough. You like a little bit more petrol in your Java. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think they roast it like Starbucks roasted, which is a lot. Actually, funny story. So Howard Schultz built his Willy Wonka Starbucks factory in Seattle. They roast. There's like all these chutes and tubes and stuff. They roast their coffee so much that all this oil extracts from it,
Oh my
and it
gosh.
gunked up the tubes. So he had to spend $5 million fixing the tubes in his coffee factory. I like more of a medium blend, I guess.
There you go.
Southwest Diner's good. Gosh, I went.
Comes up a lot.
Yeah, I went to the Gelateria before the fire just because it was in the neighborhood.
Where are you getting your sandwich from?
My sandwich, I like. I'm gonna say it wrong. Joyas.
Joyous.
Yeah.
Like a J.
Yeah.
Joya.
Joyas. So I like Joyas. I like Blue City Deli is good. I cook a lot at home too.
Dinner time. You and the lady.
And you cook vegetarian, don't you?
Well, no, I
cook at home. I mean, you can cook anything. But
less meat.
Yeah.
Where do I take my wife on a date? Well, we were just at Miley. We've been to we went to Press the other day on
Yeah.
Jefferson.
Yeah.
Those pizzas are brilliant.
Yeah, it's not the best, most kid-friendly place, but it's
As somebody who's lived in Shanghai and
Yeah.
Guangzhou, what Asian food have you liked here in the St. Louis
And
community?
why is it a St. Paul
Yeah.
sandwich?
Yeah, exactly. So there is a Western Chinese place out in Chesterfield. Forget the name of it. It's very it's
Kate
tasty.
Zone?
No, it's like deeper than that.
Oh, wow.
But I have been to Kate Zone, corner.
they're Dong Bay or
corner 17.
All right.
I like the Vietnamese food. I like
Lonas?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to Lona's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Magic.
two years in.
Yeah.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on. Give us a quick grade for let's call this the first semester.
So I said earlier that I told my wife I wouldn't say anything about moving in 5 years. That's the 5-year thing is indefinite. I like it here. I also know that I get the Jones to see some other places, but I do feel like more importantly, my daughter likes it here. So we will, even if we go on a little sojourn or jaunt some other place for a couple of years, we'll come back here because she feels like this place is home. So grade.
You're a teacher. That's why
I know.
We're not gonna have a parent-teacher conference.
B plus. I have funny stories about ambassadors chewing me out in parent-teacher conferences because I fucked
B
up
plus?
sex ed. So there you go. B
Wow.
plus.
Take a B plus.
I'm a hard grader too. So there you go.
I love it. Well, hey Nathaniel, thank you very much for joining us, man. This has been a pleasure.
For sure.
I'm probably I guarantee now that I've connect the face. I guarantee we'll probably cross paths. It's either a Maddie or a Playador outing, right?
the Mad Dog.
Mr. Bartlett, as always, real quick.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Nate.
Yeah, what's your plans this weekend here in St. Louis? What are you doing? Are you
honest to God, I would love to. I want to go to one of our fine grocery establishments. I was thinking maybe a little Balliards. I was thinking of grabbing some pork steak.
What's our?
I want to. I was thinking about hitting up the Festival of Nations.
Oh, that is this weekend.
Yeah, which is one of our. We have some incredible festivals, but which is going on right next door in Tower Grove, which I think is from the music to the food. So I'd like to do a little bit of cooking at home. I'd like to hit Festival of Nations, and I just want to enjoy this weather. I mean, we get breaks like this. I mean, it's 80 degrees right now. There's no humidity. And, how often, do you get that all the time? So I'm just going to enjoy it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Plans this weekend, Nathaniel? What do you?
Yeah, so it's birthday party season for my daughter's crew of friends. So we'll be doing some of that. Definitely Festival of Nations too. And then, like Anthony said, just relax and enjoy like the summer heat, but the cooler evenings.
Oh,
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah, it's nice to not be sweating all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on my way. We are on our way out here. Thank you for listening. St. Louis, B-side, STL. Really appreciate all the support, guys. Click that subscribe button. That helps us keep the stories coming. Gonna roll out here with a little Hunter Peebles from the Drifter album. And in case you were wondering, I'm gonna be watching my kids play soccer all weekend because that's what I do. Like
A little bit of that going on.
Yeah, it's like Groundhog Day. I feel like Bill Murray.
Does yours play soccer yet? No.
Actually, I can add
starting.
another slash to my resume. 4-year-old soccer coach.
Oh
There
boy.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
God.
little buzzball.
I will mail over a bottle of whiskey later.
Earn my beers.
All right, we're out of here. See you next time, people. Thank you for listening. Go check us out on YouTube as well. STL B-side. We're out. See you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.